today. So to recap for the people on who's going to be watching this on YouTube eventually, stress response, proximal before distal, unnecessary treatments, and taking care of yourself. But before I do that, did you guys check out my blog? I put out a doozy this past week. It was with a good conversation with my buddy Lance, my buddy Jason Byrne, and we talked about the learning process. I had a great time talking with those cats, and we had a boatload of fun doing it. Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about those people. So yeah, that's kind of what we talked about with them. It's a lot of fun. And that's pretty much all I got for housekeeping. And so let's discuss the stress response first. And you know what? No one is on Twitter. I'm coming off of Twitter. I want to see if I can get Facebook going, guys. I apologize. But Facebook gives me mad love. So I got to see if we can actually get that working. Because I would love for my Facebook people to be here. So we'll see. Yeah. Bizarre. Just don't think I wanted to work on my computer. We're back. Facebook people, recording live from somewhere at Zach Couples with Movement Debrief, and we're going to talk about a lot of cool things today. We're going to talk about, what did I say? Stress response, treating proximal first. We're going to talk about restoring sensation, and we're going to talk about taking care of yourself. Let's dive in. So first, the stress response. This is a personal story for this one. As you guys probably know if you're following me on that Instagram, I am an avid hiker. I just absolutely love hiking. And I was trying to go to this place I've never gone before called the Awawi Poodoos. And I was using my trusty Google Maps to do this hike. And I was going down this dirt road. It's like, it's kind of, sketch, kind of a little damp because it's been raining here. And I went down this ridge. First one, was able to nail it, not a problem. And then I go down the second ridge, and I thought I was going to hit it. I just had to kind of turn this little corner, and all of a sudden, I get stuck. I get stuck in the mud, and I can't move whatsoever. And I'm like, shit. So the reason why I wanted to use this story for the stress response is because I had a full-blown stress reaction or stress response to this event. And it was pretty remarkable to experience because the first thing I said was, no! I mean, I was just frantic. I started sweating. My heart rate elevated. I was breathing fast. I wasn't thinking. I mean, I tried the sensible thing first. I was trying to wheel it out. And then, I was at the point where I was trying to physically pull an Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator and try to lift this car so it would, I could push it out. And, none of these things were happening. I mean, there was no sense going on whatsoever. And I was just panicking. I couldn't think about anything. I was just like, crap, I'm stuck here and I'm screwed. And the worst thing about it was there was no service, so I was like, shit, what the hell am I going to do in this case? And so, but eventually I was able to calm myself, and I succumbed to the fact that I'm not getting out of this. And so I decided, okay, we're just going to have to start walking. And so, fortunately, I didn't have to walk too far, and I was able to call couple of my roomies, and they were so gracious with their time to be able to help me out. And was able to get pulled out of the mud relatively unscathed. The car was totally fine. And I made it home, washed the car, and I was fine. I was totally fine. But going through that stress response in that manner made me really think a lot about the people that we work with who are chronically stressed. whether they're in chronic pain, whether they're in a bad home situation, which I see a lot here, whether they're, I mean, anything that's keeping someone chronically stressed, not sleeping for an extended period of time. And it's like, we know that this non-specific response happens in an acute scenario, and we know that to an extent this happens in a chronic scenario as well. And it made me think, like, well, no wonder that, you know, my patients aren't learning the exercise properly. I mean, they can't even think as effectively because of this stress response. Or, you know, no matter they suck at some of these breathing exercises that I'm trying to get them to do because they are stuck in this hyperventilated state. Or, you know, no wonder they're in a bit more pain, which is another thing too. I felt like I was dealing with a little bit of like some adductor pain and the day before, and then that just really intensified on my walk. And it's just like, man, no wonder these people are dealing with the stuff that they're dealing with. Like, it's a challenge that I think until you're put in that situation, you don't truly appreciate. And so I think we have to be mindful of how all types of stressors are influencing the people we work with, and we have to have some compassion in the sense that we don't know to what extent this is impairing them from doing some of the tasks that we ask. So don't get stuck in the mud. Don't be stupid when you're driving, one. And then two, be appreciative of the stress response. So that's point one. Out of water. Point two, proximal treatments first. So I've been kind of inspired since I went to the Hamptons and took the Derek Hansen seminar that we had with my buddies, and especially after talking with Daddy O Pops, Bill Hartman. I've been doing a lot more time treating proximal segments first in distal issues. And so I have like 3 cases that I use to illustrate this point. And so the first one was this woman who had a ganglion cyst removed right there. And she was dealing with a lot of pain in her wrist. She couldn't move in any direction. Was kind of stuck like this, in ulnarly deviated, and was just experiencing a great deal of pain. And, you know, obviously I looked at her wrist, and she was limited in all directions. But I slowly went up proximally, and I looked at a few other things, and lo and behold, she couldn't pronate her forearm on that right side. But everywhere else, she was kind of super duper flexible, had some honking rib flares, which I know you Facebook people can't see. Rib flare would be ribs popping up like that. And I thought to myself, do we need to treat the hand in this case? And the answer to that is I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because I am operating under the framework of, if I do not have the proximal segments or the axial skeleton in a, I don't want to say good position, but we'll say in a good position, or if I don't have the axial skeleton doing what it needs to do in order to effectively move in 3 planes, then I don't know to what extent these things are local impairments or if they're more systemic impairments. And so with this woman, the first thing I did was an activity that focused on dropping the rib cage, as well as doing some things in the shoulders so we could favorably give her a sense of control with the great amount of flexibility that she has, as well as restoring motor control of the proximal or axial segments. And as soon as we had done that, she got a sizable amount of range of motion and flexion and extension restored with a hell of a lot less pain. She still had some limitation in elbow pronation, and so I still was thinking proximal in mind, but I moved towards a little bit more of a distal activity that emphasized pronating, but we still didn't do anything to the hand at this point. So we pronated the forearm and had her do like a side plank. And after we had done that activity, she was only limited in extension of the wrist and had minimal pain. And so, like, that was just a very cool example of treating proximal segments first having a huge influence on distal segments. And so, again, I have to illustrate this. You don't know to what extent you have to address something distal until you've accounted for proximal. I had the same thing happen with someone who I evaluated yesterday who had a ORIF in her left ankle because she had a high ankle sprain, and so she had surgery. It was the same story. She had a limitation in multi-directional limitations in her ankle, large amounts of pain, and this girl as well was very similar to the prior girl, was crazy flexible. Steve, I have not heard of ATM2, but I'll check it out. But crazy amount of flexibility. She had a straight leg raise of like 120 degrees on her left and then 110 on her right. This was the right leg that was involved, by the way. And crazy flexibility everywhere, large amounts of knee extension, but a locked up ankle. And so what did I do? Well, again, this chick was also one of those peeps who had high rib flares. And so we know that based on that, the system is probably driven into a bit of extension. And anytime I extend, even though I might have someone who's super flexible, we know at least active degrees of freedom are reduced. And so what did I do with this woman? She's non-weight bearing, so I didn't do anything to that side. But what I did was, because she had an excessive amount of a straight leg raise on her left side, especially compared to her right, knowing what we know about how the body is related in terms of biokinematic relationships and what position someone may or may not be in, and if you want more of this material, check out Postural Restoration Institute. I gave her an activity that actually emphasized the left hamstring while working on keeping the right leg fully extended and doing a little bit of ankle dorsiflexion. And I had her do that and breathe. And after she did that, same thing happened. We had pretty much full sagittal motion of dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. She had a lot less pain. And then I gave her one other activity that worked on some frontal plane mobility limitations that she had, notably into abduction, which, again, as we know, #EVP, after some type of ankle sprain, there is reduced ipsilateral glute activation. So I gave her an activity that focused on that, and she had no pain in her ankle, full sagittal plane motion, a large improvement in eversion, and less pain with inversion. Again, I had the same thing happen today with another, going proximal before distal. I have a guy who I'm seeing who had an Achilles tear, and it was a partial tear, so he didn't have surgery. And with this guy, he had functional limitations in the hips in terms of he couldn't control some of the active tests that I use. And we did some activities to improve those tests. And at the beginning of the session, he could not perform a single leg heel raise. By the end, he was able to. I didn't address local tissues. And the reason why I didn't address local tissues is because if the proximal segments or the axial skeleton is influencing what goes on distally, if you don't address that first, you are working from a disadvantaged starting point. And so here is kind of like the framework that I'm operating under in this case. Step one for your people: address proximal orientation and position and axial skeleton motor control first. Because if that's not addressed, you don't know what's going on down the chain or what that will impact on the chain. Once you've done that, the next thing you'll want to do, and this is kind of like my 2 rules about as I'm moving further distal. If again, and you need to kind of know what patterns would occur from a predictable standpoint. And again, look at PRI as an example, or malalignment syndrome also has some good material. Steve, I'll hit you up, my man. Or at least why don't we shoot me an email and we can chat. So treat proximal first. The second thing, if I have a limitation in one direction, I want to go that direction. Or if I have excessive mobility or I have motion where I shouldn't, I'm going to go the opposite way. So I'll give you examples of both of those. So if let's go with the limitation first. If I'm limited, I want to go in that direction. And so let's say I have a limitation in internal rotation. What I might do, or actually let's go back to the chick with the elbow, because the internal rotation example I'm going to use for the excessive mobility. So let's say my chick who had the decreased elbow pronation. So with her, I expected her to have that limitation based on what she was presenting with further proximally. So what I did was I did an activity that drove pronation. And what that allowed us to do is when we drove that activity, she was able to get full pronation restored because we used pronation to inhibit the excessive supinatory activity. Is that a word? I don't know. But we drove pronation because that was the direction that the limitation went. On the flip side, if we have someone who's hypermobile or has mobility where they shouldn't, and an example might be an individual who has anterior hip laxity. So they might have an excessive amount of external rotation. And they might even have an excessive amount of internal rotation, pending the amount of laxity they have. For those individuals, I'm going to go the opposite direction. And so if I have someone at the hip who has a large amount of external rotation, I'm going to shift them back into their hip and internally rotate the femur. And so what I'm going to do is, as we know, external rotation creates a bit of an anterior glide of the femur. So I'm going to posterior glide the femur and IR. And what that does is that provides ligamentous muscular reinforcement in the anterior hip. I could say the same thing in the arm pronation example, or the forearm pronation. So let's say my chick had full forearm pronation. Well, we know that she may have developed some laxity in some of the structures on the lateral aspect of the elbow. And so what do? Well, I know the supinator muscles, amongst others, run right all over there. I might drive supination in that case. So think of it this way. If I have a limitation in motion, I'm going to drive into that direction. If I have excessive motion, I'm going to go opposite that direction to provide ligamentous muscular reinforcement. So the three-step approach is address proximal orientation and position first. If you have a limitation, go into the direction of the limitation. And if you have excessive mobility, go away from that excessive mobility to provide reinforcement. So go proximal first, baby. Trust me. It'll save you time. It'll save you, your patients, a lot of headaches. And it just helps people, man. It just straight up helps people. All right. Restoring sensation. This one, I don't like, sometimes I try to provide you guys practical examples, but I'm actually kind of throwing this out there to the people who are listening. So if you guys, I would love for you to comment because I'm in a bind. So I have this guy, and I might vent a little bit about this guy. So I have this guy who I'm seeing for low back pain. And he's doing incredible. Like, this guy has had a fusion a couple years ago. So he's just kind of got a recurring bout of low back pain. And he has absolutely no pain now. Can, do pretty much anything without any discomfort. But yet the physician still wants him to come to PT. And so that's where I rub my face, because I am shaking my head and like, why is this happening? Why are you still coming here? Why is this patient still being seen? And like, not only that, but the physician is ordering MRIs and is like, oh, we might need surgery, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the bro's not in pain, fam. What are you doing? So, but anyways, the concern that the physician had was this guy has sensation loss from about mid-shin down. And the ticker, the trick with this, or the key about this, is this was present before the prior the surgery that he had 2 years ago. And so this was a result of that injury. And I don't know to like, I know in a lot of these cases when they do back surgeries, we don't know if any sensation's coming back. And so now, does this impact this guy? Because he can't necessarily feel some types of noxious input occurring, yeah. Like he was talking about a blister that he got, and he didn't really feel that with hiking. And so, yeah, I mean, this could definitely impact him. I mean, is it something that's surgical? Probably not, because it didn't work the first time. So I am at this, I'm in a bind, guys, because I am trying to figure out, is there any way that we can get this guy any type of sensory capability back in that affected region? And so the things I'm trying with him right now, first thing is sensory discrimination. And so basically what that is trying to see what sensations he can and can't feel. And so we're doing sharp dull, we're doing 2-point discrimination, I'm doing light touch. I mean, I'm throwing everything I can at this guy to see if he can feel anything, just to see if it can restore any type of sensation. And I mean, it's spotty, but there are some spots that he can feel. So I'm wondering if that's encouraging, at least to a bit to me. I just wonder if to what extent we can restore that. And in some of the spots that he couldn't feel those things, I actually did dry needling to see if we could get maybe any type of noxious input going in there. And in some of the spots that he didn't have sensation, he could feel that. And so that's kind of my two-tiered approach. But I really don't know what to expect from a restoring sensation standpoint. So if you guys have any ideas, like I don't know what I'm missing, or if you've had anything in the past with people you've worked with in restoring sensation that's been successful, like please drop a comment, because I would love to hear what everyone else is doing, and if you found anything useful or successful, or if, like, you know, doing some type of cortisone injection, which I think they're doing for this guy next. Even though he has no pain, just gonna say that they're doing this cortisone injection next, so maybe that might help. I don't know. I don't think surgery is the answer. I think we've seen that pretty clear in the literature, that sensation is not always restored after these things. So comment, please, if you got something that works. Steve, have you tried traction while in an upright position? It's okay, Malone. So that's a good question, Steve. I have not tried traction. So one thing I did do, because I also wanted to see if there were any type of neurodynamic involvement. So for those on Instagram Live, Steve Hoffman asked if I had tried traction in an upright position. So I didn't try traction, but I checked like the slump, and I checked straight leg raise, and I tried several other positions to try and do some type of structural differentiation to see if we could implicate perhaps some neurodynamic interventions, or see if that might be a way to go. And testing didn't seem unremarkable. Like there's nothing that alters sensation in either direction. But that's something I could try. So, Steve, I'm going to ask you this. When you say traction in an upright position, are you having the guy standing and then just putting a weight on his leg and having him pull that way? Because I've done some type of activity that's been a variant of that, but I'd be just curious to hear what you have to say in that regard. So I might just give Steve a couple seconds before I move on to my next point. And to drink some water, because I am thirsty as all hell. I've been going keto for today. I think, I don't know. I don't measure my ketones, and it seems to make me a bit thirstier. Straight leg raise was negative, Steve. He's got like 70 degrees straight leg raise, nothing. So again, no positive implications with neurodynamic findings, and it seems to be for this guy. It seems to be along the fibular nerve, or the common fibular or superficial fibular nerve dermatome, but he also has some decreased sensory loss on the bottom of the foot. Doesn't have diabetes or anything like that. So, because that was one thing I did ask him. But again, too, I mean, if we could test that, that'd be kind of cool to see if that's a factor. But I can definitely try traction of some sort, and maybe that's what I'll do next time, man, and just see if we get an improvement in that regard. So if anyone else has any ways that you guys like to restore sensory input in an area, please keep commenting, because I'm all for good ideas. The last piece that I'll talk about today, and Steve, I will keep you posted. Maybe I'll comment on the next debrief. I'm trying to think if I see him before that. I don't know. But next time I will comment on what of the debrief this is. Let me see what Malone Bodywork says. It's an interesting how to keep that is, especially the thirst. I recently had some unresolved experience along those lines. Oh, keto. Thank you. Steve, I use a device that can pull the rib cage up while the pelvis is supported. Okay. You know what, man? I'll tell you what. I'm going to take you up on this offer, Steve, and I'm going to try to do some type of traction. I will do that. And then Malone Bodywork on Instagram. He was talking about ketosis, and so I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit briefly. And hang on, I will talk about that, Malone. Oh, Joe, love you, girl. Using like hyperbaric chambers, gluten and stuff like that. Interesting. I mean, you know what? Like, so Ramos Johanna, Joe. This is a lovely woman who I used to work with back when I was at East Valley Spine and Sports. And she's saying that vibration therapy and oxygen therapy were helpful. I don't know if this cat's going to be into that. And that's something I haven't really explored. I did do like some vibration sensation with him, which he could feel some spots. But again, it's like with all the sensory discrimination I was trying, it didn't seem like it wasn't, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's going to help or not. I'm going to definitely continue to do it. As for the blood work or like the gluten sensitivity and stuff like that, like I would love to be able to do blood work or some type of functional medicine with all of my people. And it's something that's really interesting me right now. Like a lot of the kind of side learning that I'm doing, like when I'm doing long drives and stuff like that, is pretty much along those lines. And I don't know what his blood panels are, but I will check. I will ask him. I'm definitely going to ask him and see. But anyways, like functional medicine to me is just very, very fascinating, and blood work and stuff like that. And some of the stuff that I'm listening to from Rhonda Patrick and Chris Kresser, and even like my buddy Eric Otter, who's really getting into this stuff. I mean, it's just, I think addressing things such as blood work and diet, nutrition, stress management, sleep, all of these things, like these have profound impacts, or are profound ways to impact individuals that are relatively untapped. I mean, and I think Chris Kresser puts this so eloquently, like conventional medicine, if we envision someone as a tree, conventional medicine does a lot of tugging at the branches to try to address the tree, as opposed to going to the roots. And I mean, if we think of that as problems, like if we have someone who's developing diabetes, well, the simple fix is just to keep him medicated, and we don't address what got him there, right? Which, sure, there's genetic and epigenetic and epigenetic factors into why people could develop diabetes, but if he's overweight and he's not sleeping well and he's eating like crap and maybe he's exposed to a lot of environmental toxins. Like, those things, you might be able to address just those things in a lot of these individuals, and that may shift their blood sugar in an extremely favorable fashion. You just don't know. And again, I'm not professing to be an expert in any of these areas, but I mean, just seeing how untapped of a resource it is, it makes me, it doesn't make me wish that I had gone in another profession, because I love my work. I love movement, and I love helping people in pain, and I love helping people perform at high levels. But I know that I'm going to hit a roadblock with some individuals, and that is the roadblock. And it's really hard to find good practitioners who could dive down that route. That's why at some point I'm probably going to I've been contemplating this a lot, but just going back and getting like my master's in nutrition or something like that, or I've even thought about maybe going into PA school or something like that. I don't think MD is too feasible, because I'm old and I already owe a lot of money on student loans, but I do think the functional medicine side of things is an untapped resource. So, yeah. You guys should check that stuff out if you're not looking at like Rhonda Patrick or Chris Kresser, because I think it's phenomenal stuff. And it's stuff I'm definitely interested in a lot more of. So, which actually is a good segue to taking care of yourself. And today I'm a pretty easygoing cat, and that's because typically every morning I am extremely well caffeinated, and I've been sleeping a lot better. I was kind of dealing with some sleep issues in the sense that I was trying to go to bed really early, which wasn't working, because I'm typically a night owl, and then I was trying to wake up really early, and so I decided to, instead of trying to force a habit from happening, like just listen to your body, Zach, and take care of yourself. But today, for whatever reason, I was not a happy-go-lucky cat. I think I had two patients today who I was just struggling with. Like, they came in and both had back pain, and it was just like I was trying to find something to help these individuals, and it was like, no, this hurts, this hurts, this hurts. No, I can't get in that position. No, I can't get in that position. And ow, no, I didn't do my exercises because it hurts. All of these things. And I think because I was struggling a bit with both of these people, like I was frustrated. I was frustrated as F, man. Like, I was just, like, to the point where, not that I like yelled at the patients or something like that, but I think I was aware that I was showing my frustration, and was like kind of becoming very short. And it was like I knew this was happening as it was occurring, but I just couldn't shake it, and it pissed me off to no end. And it made me think a lot about, okay, like after the second time this happened, I'm like, dude, Zach, you gotta chill. So I just sat down, got a few good exhalations to kind of chill out, and I got some ketones, because like today I'm in ketosis, I think. I don't know. At least that's where I'm going, because like with my current diet regime, and I'll talk about this at some point, I'm probably going to write about it, but like I'm alternating high carb days with keto days, because I'm trying to get into the gains mode. And today was my keto day, and so I took the ketones, took a few exhales, and like by the next patient I was totally fine. And then I had taken a nap in the afternoon and had a good lunch, and then like the rest of the afternoon I was pretty solid. But the reason why I think this is a taking care of yourself issue is, and this is coming from a guy who's like, I'm eating healthy, but it's clear that I took such a huge dip in blood sugar that it was impacting my mood. And not only that, but like today I had to get up earlier this morning than I normally do. And I kind of, like the last couple nights, even though I've been pretty consistent with my sleep timing, I've probably been going to bed about 20-30 minutes later than normal, and that adds up. And it's like, these are things that are impacting my health personally that not only go to affecting me in a negative fashion, but because I neglected my health to some degree, like that impacted other people today. And like I think about those days that maybe we decide, oh, I don't want to exercise today because I'm just not feeling it, or oh, I want to stay up and Netflix and chill for a little bit longer and watch 2 more shows, and then it's all of a sudden it's 4 a.m. and you haven't gone to bed and you're sleep deprived. Or maybe it's you don't want to lose weight, or maybe it's you're not engaging socially with people. But whatever it is to maximize our health and well-being, like it is about you, but it's not about you. By you not having those ideals or your health optimized, it will impact your performance in multitudes of areas, which can impact other people. And when you're a healthcare practitioner like me, that's a no-go, man. Like, these people are depending on me to be at my best so I can help them get back to their best. And I let some people down today, and that's frustrating as all hell. And it made me realize that I got to do a hell of a lot better job at making sure I am in tip-top shape and primed and healthy as hell and taking care of myself so I can do my job better. And so, people, one of the best things that you can do to help your patients, help your clients, help the people that you work with, help your family is help yourself. Because if you aren't in tip-top shape and you aren't primed to carry out the tasks that you need to do and live out your purpose, you will fail. And not only will you fail, you'll fail the people that you work with, or you'll fail your family, or you'll fail your friends, or you'll fail your partner. And that ain't cool. And I think that's a good stopping point for tonight. I think we'll call that it, because I'm tired, boss. I'm dog tired. And I need to get packing, because I'm going back home this weekend. I'm going to leave tomorrow. My cousin Dan is getting married, so I'm very happy for him. I don't think he's watching, but Dan, congrats. I'm excited to go see my family. Hopefully I can get some hiking in. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and listening. If you want more and you like this kind of stuff, I have a blog. It's called ZachCouples.com. You guys should subscribe to my newsletter, because guess what you're going to get? You're going to get some free audio. There's a couple podcasts I did. You're going to get a free acute to chronic workload calculator, which is, man, damn near essential for my patients and clients that I work with. In fact, I'm using mine right now on a couple of return to running programs that I'm doing with some peeps, and my buddy who I'm trying to help break 5 minutes for the mile. So please find me on my website. You can find me on Facebook. That's you guys, /Z Couples. You can find me on that Instagram, yo. Zach Couples, ZACCUPPLES. You can also follow me on Twitter. My handle is @ZachCouples. Also, if you look at me on my YouTubes, go to youtube.com, type in Zach Couples, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put out some cool stuff there. And if you want access to my videos, that's a good spot to do it. Like this debrief, for example. I'm putting this bad boy up on YouTube right now. So you guys better check it out. Malone Bodywork, you have an even better night. So that's all I got for tonight. Don't run marathons. Don't run marathons, Joe. I'm telling you, girl. You do not want to do that. That stuff's overrated. Yanni Poo, respect it, don't neglect it. It was great chatting with you guys tonight. I appreciate your help and your feedback on some of the question that I had for you guys. That was a lot of fun. Otherwise, keep it real, but not to the extent where things go wrong. Stay strong, stay hungry, keep learning, keep moving, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.